Dober dan vsem, lepo pozdravljeni tule v Mengšu v studiu Matlux in na začetku zahvala naši Mateji za tale prostor za gostoljubje, pa seveda hvala vsem, ki ste prišli na tale na hitro ustvarjen dogodek. Z nami je Monika Smit iz Avstralije, ki je bila vedno v prvih vrstah avstralskega upora proti nerazumnim ukrepom, ki so obvladovali ali pa tudi ne večino našega sveta pred letom, 2, 3 in je zaradi tega tudi v Avstraliji pristala v zaporu, o čemer je napisala knjigo, ki jo bomo, upam, da kmalu lahko prebrali. Jaz bi samo še prosila tiste, ki ste čisto na novo tukaj, če bi želeli pač podobne informacije dobivati, da se upišete tamle na listo, upišete svoje ime in priimek in e-mail. Monika je pa imela ob prihodu v Slovenijo eno zanimivo izkušnjo, zato in najprej za dobrodošlico.
But I haven't talked yet.
Yeah,
you don't know.
Yeah,
it might be bad. You might not want to give them to me.
This is
for
thank coming
you,
here.
thank you.
And this is something to smooth your first experience in Slovenia.
Oh, that's very nice. Does everyone know what happened?
Redarji so jo pač ustavili, ker ni imela vinjete, pač ni vedela in so ji mastno zaračunali.
Yeah. And they were very mean too. They were not nice.
Yeah.
But I wasn't nice to them either. I told them that they have a shameful job and they should be ashamed of themselves. So,
Tako da, Monika.
you know. Anyway.
Še tole. This is for you.
Oh,
too.
thank you so much. Thank you so much. I will look at it later.
So the stage is yours.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for the warm welcome. And if you didn't already know, Maya, pardon me, emailed me 36 hours ago at 10 p.m. at night. I answer all my own emails at the moment. And she said, do you want to come to Slovenia? And I said, sure, why not? And, it was just 6 hours drive away. Big deal. It's kind of on my way. I guess, well, I'm going to Zadar next. I probably said it wrong, but it's not too far out of my way. But also, I do hear a lot of people talking about how beautiful Slovenia is. So I thought, why not? And it is really beautiful. So I won't let my first experience ruin the whole of Slovenia, I promise, because I understand that is just 2 people on the road who think they're very important. Anyway, but that's not what I came here to talk about. Who here knows my story? Okay, so I'll explain it. Good. Okay. So I'll just briefly explain my story and then I'm going to talk about the good side of it, and how we can, I guess use these stories to make it easier moving forward. But in Australia, especially Melbourne, I would say Melbourne specifically, it was really bad. You guys probably know. It's not a competition we wanted to win, but it was the worst lockdown in the world, closely followed by Canada and New Zealand at times. But it was the length of it that made it the worst as well. And it was just Victoria too. The rest of Australia was very different. So obviously it had something to do with our premier. But that's another story. But anyway, I started an organisation called Reignite Democracy Australia in August 2020, which was the perfect time, obviously, because that's when people started to wake up. The people that were going to wake up, that's when they were like, hang on, it's been 4 months now and people aren't dying on the streets and they're being kind of weird, and especially in Melbourne, they're locking us down and things like that. So anyway, I was the right person at the right time. I did this one event online and it just went crazy. And then 3 weeks after that, I got a hold of this big bus, like a proper big passenger bus, not a small one, a big passenger bus, like the passenger ones you see here. And someone had put signage on it that was making fun of our Premier, Daniel Andrews. So he's going like that, and it was the Premier, and it had written on there, sack Dan Andrews, so like get rid of him, fire him. Anyway, we were in lockdown, and I said, and I was a journalist, right, which is a loophole to leave the house because it's a job that you are allowed to do, and the bus was my taxi. How can you can't really say anything about that, right? So we were driving around, and the police were following us, arresting us, drug testing us, alcohol testing us, setting up roadblocks to stop the bus from going. And it gave me so much great content because they were treating us like criminals when we're just driving around in a bus that had a funny picture on it, right? And that's when I started being in the media and etc. So it was this event, and then it was the bus, and just boom, I was just the anti-lockdown girl for Australia. That's how it happened. I didn't ask for it. I didn't know what I was doing. I've never done anything like this before. I've never had a business like that. I've never been an activist in that way. So it was a bit of a shock. About a month after that, we went to a protest, and we were surrounded by 300 police. I was arrested 3 times in one day. I was put in the back of a police van for no reason, and then let go for no reason. Like, you know, and so obviously when you start to have a big voice, you start to attract negative attention from powerful people. It's a compliment because you're obviously doing something that they don't like, which is what you're trying to do really. But it can be stressful as well. And a year later, I was basically playing the game a little bit, which I kind of regret actually. So I had the loophole of being a journalist. I had the paper saying that I didn't have to wear a mask. I had the permit when you weren't allowed to leave your house. If I could do it again, I wouldn't have done any of that. But we were all learning as we went. And so my loophole for promoting protests was I would put a picture of the protest up, and I would say, I am going to report on this protest. And I did that for a year. I also came up with ideas. So there was, a time when we couldn't leave our house more than 5 kilometers, and we couldn't leave the house unless we were exercising, and we had to wear a mask unless we were eating. So I told people to walk past their members of parliament office with their lunch, with running shoes on, and eat their lunch outside the office while yelling at them or whatever. So I was coming up with these loopholes all the time until I got bored of the loopholes. So I then said, I'm going to this protest, and so should you. And that was when they arrested me for incitement. So incitement is supposed to be used for if I was to encourage you to commit an armed robbery and I told you to do it and you did it for me, I would be in trouble for armed robbery as well as you, which makes sense in a way. But they found a loophole in the criminal system that if I'm encouraging you to not wear a mask, I'm a criminal because I'm encouraging you to break the law. But not wearing a mask is only a fine. So it's kind of like if we went driving and I told you to park in a no parking area and you got fined and I got criminally charged for telling you to park there. That's how stupid it is. But they found this loophole, which meant that they didn't have to have enough to convict you. They didn't have enough evidence to go all the way, but they would arrest you for incitement and then they would give you bail conditions to shut you up. That was the system. And it had happened to people before me. So I knew it was a possibility. I also had a dream 3 days before that it happened, and then it happened. So when it happened, I wasn't actually shocked, which was, I think, a really big blessing. But I was in a position at the time to say no to the bail conditions. And the reason why is because I don't have children. I didn't have a job that I needed to keep the electricity going. I was living with my parents. My family was supportive, etc. So I was in the position to say, I'm not signing those bail conditions. And I'll tell you the worst two, there was 15 of them. Okay. One of them was that I had to stay home from 7 p.m. to 6 a.m. every day. And I was on bail for 2 years. So could you imagine? But the really bad ones, worse than that, is I had a website, Reignite Democracy Australia. It was getting 50 to 100,000 views a week. And I'm not telling you that to gloat, I'm telling you that because obviously people needed whatever was on that website, the information we were providing. So it was a service to people. They wanted me to delete everything on the website that was in opposition to the COVID restrictions. Not everything that was encouraging people to break COVID. That would have made sense, right? But anything that was in opposition to the COVID restrictions, like it was just like out of China. Everything on the website was against the government, okay? Everything. So I had 8 staff and I had all these views. So they wanted to get rid of all that. The worst one, worse than that, was that they wanted me not to speak against the COVID restrictions. Full stop. Even in my house, for example. So if my brother wanted to go to the police, I could go back to jail for doing that. So I never had a choice, in my opinion, to sign. I couldn't sign those bail conditions. And like I said, I had the dream 3 days before. In the dream, I didn't sign the bail conditions. I went to prison. And it was such a vivid dream that I told my boyfriend at the time, I said, if this happens, I'm not going to sign. And he said, so you'll go to prison. And I said, if I have to. So I went to prison. But so I went to prison because I wouldn't sign the bail conditions, not because of the crime itself. Then we appealed the bail conditions and we got all of those bail conditions taken away. She agreed, the judge agreed that they were draconian, basically. And she was listening. There was protests happening at that time when she was being a judge at her house because everything was over Zoom. And she said, obviously Monica is not the organizer. She's in prison and there's a protest outside my door, you know, so it was quite funny. Anyway, yeah, she was actually. I prayed a lot to get a good judge and I think I got one because, you know, the police, when they arrested me, they didn't expect that to happen. They didn't expect me to not sign because other people before me had to sign because they've got families or different situations. So it kind of blew up in their face. And I found that really funny. Like when I was in prison, I literally was like looking at the ceiling laughing and like saying like, oh, you didn't see that coming, did you? You know, and that kind of kept me going. And I want to say before I move on is that, I didn't do that because I'm special. I just did that because I had the right situation. Okay. Not everyone is supposed to do that. Not everyone should do that because if you've got young kids, they need you, especially a woman, probably. Anyway, we're not going to get into that. But the point is that we can all be courageous in our own circles, in our own lifestyle. And in some ways, I'm lucky because I got the pat on the back. You know, people were like, oh, thanks for what you did. Whereas a lot of people are courageous at home. No one knows about it, you know? So I feel really lucky that I was actually able to make that stand and do that because I did get the gratification that, you know, and it got a bit worse. They were pretty annoyed that I won that bail condition thing. So they got a warrant out to force me to give them password access to everything on my phones. So they took my phones from the car. I had 2 phones, a business, and Google Maps, Google Docs, Google Drive, Signal, Telegram, all my emails, all my administration emails from my organization. I had doctors emailing me and teachers emailing. They wanted all of it, right? And if I didn't give it to them, I would go back to prison for breaching the bail because it's another criminal offense, right? And it's another criminal offense, which means it's a whole new court thing, blah, blah, blah. And I tried to fight the warrant and I lost. So 2 judges signed off on this warrant for me to sit in a room with a policeman and give them my passwords. Like, could you imagine? All the data, I had over 100,000 subscribers in Reignite Democracy Australia, they would have had all their details, like a list of political dissidents. They are stupid in thinking that I would ever give them that. Like, honestly, I would probably do a lot more before I would give them that. Anyway, so I thought, you know what? I'm just not going to give it to them and see what happens. And I called them. I emailed them and I said, if you're going to arrest me, just let me know. I'll come to the station in my pajamas so I'm comfortable this time. And 2 days later, they dropped the charges. So the point of that story is a lot of what they do is just intimidation. And they test you and they test you. And when you push back, not all the time, but in my case, it worked. They just wanted that information, or they wanted me to plead guilty to the original fine. And again, I was in the position to be able to say no. And so the point of me telling you this story is, again, I've said again, I'm not more special than anyone else, but it really played a big role in Australia because I'm so clean looking. Like, I'm just so normal looking. Not that there's anything wrong with tattoos and piercings, but I don't have those. And I've always been a tax-paying citizen. So a lot of people were shocked at what they did to me. But also, it sounds weird, but it was the best thing that happened to me because it gave me a voice. I wouldn't be here. There's no way. You wouldn't really probably want to listen to me if I was just an activist from Australia. Maybe some of you would. But the fact that I went to prison, it kind of gives me like an edge that not everyone has. And I was already writing a book when I went to prison. I was actually writing a book about getting arrested the year before 3 times. That was like around it. And then when I went to prison, I was like, oh, the book just got way better, you know? So like when they push us, we can actually use it. A lot of the time we can use it to our benefit if we can get over the shock of what they've done. Does anyone know about Lawrence Fox recently? Has anyone heard of Lawrence Fox? Just really recently, he got kicked off of a news show in the UK and his house got raided by police because he was talking about basically a thought crime. And his profile is booming. You know, he's going to have a great career. The point is, when we get persecuted, when we get censored, it can be easy to be sad and depressed about it and feel like it's us against the world, or we can turn it around and use it for our benefit. And so things could get worse, of course, with censorship and things like this. These bills are going through all over the world. If this happens in this country, if a journalist gets arrested, if the best thing that you can do is to share that story as much as possible and use that story to try to wake up other people, because in fact, the best respect you can show to the law is to break bad laws. And when someone breaks a bad law and they get in trouble, the most important thing is that you share it. So please, please, please do that. But yeah, many times in life, I'm sure you can all think of a situation where you've had a really bad time, but it's made you stronger. It usually always does. I would actually go as far as to say that COVID was actually a good thing that it happened. Now, I understand everyone has different stories. Some people had people die from the vaccine or die from COVID, or you're not talking to your family. I understand. But for the majority, who here is a very different person than they were 3 years ago? Who here is different? Who here has become stronger? Yeah? Do you want to be the same as you were 3 years ago? No. So instead of being depressed when these bad things happen, we can actually embrace them and recognize that it's actually definitely going to make us a stronger person, like it has for me. And so why am I doing this tour is the selfish reason is that I love traveling. Although it's been 5 months now, 20,000 kilometers, and I am getting a little bit withered, but I do love traveling, and I really wanted to get away from Australia because it was so bad. But I guess you could say the mission reasons is that I wanted to be inspired by people because, you know, the globalists, right? They want us to be separated. That's the point, because when we're together, We come up with ideas, we brainstorm, we support each other. So the only way that you're going to get inspired is if you meet people, because you literally, no one has an original idea. It's a mixture of things that people say to you along the way. And sometimes you can't identify where you got that thing from, but it's like a combination. Now, during this trip, I've obviously stayed with people. I've talked to probably over 1,100 or 1,200 different freedom lovers from all over Europe and different cultures. And for sure, little sentences here and there are going to add up and be really inspiring for me. And I can already say it's already happened. But also, and on that note, I'll say that every time you catch up like this, or even in a social setting like a picnic or whatever, you're actually kind of protesting in a way, because they don't want us to have support networks. Because when things are probably going to get worse before they get better. I don't know how that's going to look, but all I know is it's going to look a lot better if you have a support network. Before COVID, we had nothing. We had no networks. We had not many anyway. We didn't know what we were doing. We were running around like crazy people trying to fight every single battle and getting really, really tired. But now we're actually quite well prepared mentally, physically, when we've got great networks. You guys have your channels, you've got your websites. Like, if they tried to do something similar to COVID now, like, it's going to be hilarious, because we are so different. And I have faith that there are a lot more people like us that have woken up in the last year, but we don't know who they are, because there isn't a big crisis anymore. You know, we're not protesting anymore. We're not, because there's no point, right? So probably we've doubled in size, but you're not going to meet those people until the next common crisis happens. So I wanted to do this tour to show people because I'm going to write a Substack for each country. I'm very behind. I've only done one, but that's because I'm driving all the darn time and working. So I want to show the world that the freedom movement is a lot bigger and a lot more diverse than you think, because the thing is freedom lovers don't like to be in big structures. I don't know if you've noticed, but they like to be on their own. They like to do independent things. And so you might not know that there's another group 20 minutes away, because they're happy on their own. They've got 15 people, they're growing vegetables, they're doing their thing. But when that common crisis happens, trust me, you will find each other. You will find each other, absolutely. So by me traveling all over Europe, I'm able to make generalizations about the freedom movement, because if you have a group of 1,000 people in all different cultures, you can make assumptions based on that data that you've collected. And I can speak on that, and I'm really happy about that. And I will tell you what I've learned. Two main things, and I don't have long to go. The two main things is that a lot of people, maybe not you guys, but a lot of people woke up during COVID, but they were too scared to say anything or to not wear the mask, or maybe that's not you guys, but a lot of people. They were happy that we existed. They were happy that people were speaking out, but they were supporting from afar. They were watching from afar and not involving. And I've had many people say to me, Monica, next time, I will not be silent and I will not be afraid, because they've seen how doing the right thing is the right thing to do. They've seen the courage that other people have had and how much better that person has become from being courageous. So I can tell you, one, the freedom movement is the freedom movement is I can't. It better be an important call. No, I'm joking.
It got through the do not disturb.
Oh my gosh, maybe they don't work anymore. Here, you can put it in this bag. That'll turn it off. No, but it would. But yeah, so the two main takeaways is that People who are silent aren't going to be silent again. And two, people aren't actually that afraid. I really feel like, generally speaking, the freedom movement is almost excited about whatever's coming next. Now, I mean that in a funny way. Obviously, we would prefer that everything went back to normal and we didn't have to do all the stuff that we're doing now, all the activism. But let's be honest, people will not wake up until they experience more pain. A lot of people woke up during COVID because they experienced pain. And we did a great job as activists. We woke up a lot of people. Maybe COVID was meant to be worse. Maybe we stopped it. Maybe that was supposed to be the one world government takeover and we prevented it. Who knows? I don't know. The point is, what we achieved in COVID was amazing and we should be proud of ourselves, but we should also not be selfish and try to keep waking people up right now. Because right now, there's not enough pain, in my opinion, that if you have this one person, you might have to spend 100% of your energy to wake this person up. But when there's another crisis, you'll need 5% and you just tip them over the edge and they're awake. The point is that there are different phases, I believe, in this revolution. COVID during the crisis was a phase of waking people up and uniting and protesting so that you weren't alone. I believe now we are in a preparation phase and that our best strategy will be to conserve our energy and prepare for the next crisis, unfortunately. We must accept it's going to happen. We don't know exactly what it will be, when it will be, whether it's going to be the digital ID, the digital currencies, climate change, another pandemic. We don't know what it's going to be, but we know they are going to try. They're going to try. I personally do not think that we can stop them before they try. But when they do try and they make mistakes, I believe that is when we can potentially win or at least grow in a massive way. But until people feel the pain, they're just not going to wake up. So we need to prepare and also be ready for when the next crisis happens and people are suffering and a lot of people wake up at once. They're going to need our help. And I hope that we can remember that being divided is not the good way to go. And I hope that we can embrace those people, even if they spat at you or they yelled at you for not wearing a mask. I mean, the police who strip searched me and asked me to open bits, you know, it's pretty traumatic, but I'll forgive them because we need to unite. And they are going to go through, when these people wake up, when they realize that they've spent this whole time not listening to us and listening to the government and treating us badly, they're going to be very depressed. They're going to have a huge life trauma and probably many people will commit suicide because they won't know what to do with all the new information when they wake up. So the point is, be ready and try to, whatever you do, don't say, I told you so, please. Try not to make them feel bad for being stupid, okay? Because it's really hard to wake up, isn't it? Like, I don't know what your guys' stories is, but your whole life is turned upside down and it takes like 3 months to come out of it back into the real world and try to live in the real world. A lot of people in our movement have gone down the rabbit hole and they haven't come back up yet as well. And so, which I understand. And, you know, we need to remember how to live our lives while we can a little bit. I don't mean do nothing. I don't mean don't do activism at all. But I think a lot of us have forgotten how to just sit and be and have normal conversations. If we keep watching all this stuff and everything is about conspiracies are usually true, but you know what I mean. If everything is around this movement and you're always watching everything, like if you can't immediately affect that thing, then probably it's a waste of your energy. And so I really would implore, and by the way, I struggle with this all the time. I'm absolutely addicted to my phone, and I'm ashamed about it. I'm ashamed. So I can preach to you, but I'm not telling you that I've overcome this. But I have learned how to have normal conversations with random people and stuff like that. So if we can just remember over whatever this time is to look after ourselves, to connect with local people so that when the crisis happens that we're prepared and we have each other, then I think we're going to be a lot better off. I'll give you an example. In Australia, drag queen story times just like came in like a wave. It was like one day they weren't, you guys know what I'm talking about. Drag queen story time, do you know? Where a man dressed as a woman reads books to children.
Yeah.
And the books are about this stuff, and they dress very badly with stuff, you know. Anyway, they do this in libraries, you know. The point is, I have a point here, is that the freedom movement, we pushed back against this one event in a library, and we stopped it. We stopped this event, and we were so excited and, you know, patting each other on the back and good job, you know. Next week, there was 10 more. 10 more. 10 more of these exact events. And we don't have the resources to fight every single one. Now, my point is, I learnt from that, one, this topic is not worth your intelligence because it's so stupid, the whole man-woman thing. It's stupid. And we shouldn't even talk about it because it lowers your intelligence because it's not even a discussion. But number two is that they, the enemy, whoever, however this is, they plant traps for us. Chase this one, and we go, okay, we're going to campaign for this, and then we're going to campaign for that, and then we're going to campaign for that. And then this really big thing happens and you're tired and you don't have any energy for it. So I think we can learn from this. We've got to pick our battles, but also a lot of it is intimidation. In Australia, I'm nearly finished. In Australia, we have a censorship bill coming in. You've probably heard in the UK, in Canada, they've put through these online safety bills that are basically just ways to censor people like me and media and all this sort of stuff. It's really bad, don't get me wrong. 3 years ago, if this was happening in Australia, it is happening in Australia, I know exactly what I would do. I would be campaigning and protesting and traveling all over the country. We need to stop this bill. We need to stop this bill. And guess what? It's going to go through anyway. It's going to go through anyway because the politicians are set up already, right? And I know this because in Victoria, we only have 6 million people, okay? We had a protest against one bill, so it was very specific. It wasn't all these different things. It was just one bill like this, a legislation. We had 600,000 people on the streets for that one bill. That's 10% of the entire population in a big state. It's probably bigger than Slovenia, right? So people would have driven a long way. And that 6 million includes babies, disabled people, old people. So that 10% probably represents 40 or 50% of the entire population was willing to go on the streets to protest this one bill, and it still went through. So what I take from that is that the democracy that we thought we had, we don't really have. Not right now. Maybe it can come back. I don't know. But if you do these big campaigns and these big petitions, they're still good. I'm not saying don't do them, but at least have low expectations. If it's good to spread the message, if it gets the voice out, you know, good members of parliament are great. They speak, but they can't change anything because they're too small. There's not enough of them. So my point is that the energy that I would have spent on this bill potentially would have been 80% a waste of energy. The 20% would be good for the voice and whatever. Instead, I'm using my energy, this is just my example, to travel and meet people like you and gain all this inspiration and then go home and use it. So my two leaving messages really is that community groups are the most important thing right now. So if you are not connected to this group, if you are new here, make sure you speak to put your hand up? Maya. I didn't want to say it wrong again. Maya, sorry. When I get something wrong in my head, I tend to always get it wrong. So Maya. So please speak to Maya, because if you come to an event like this and then you go home, like that's pointless. Not pointless, but you should definitely stay connected. And my second message is that, so I have these little bands to give to you. And I've already talked about this, so I don't need to go into it too much, but they say we are ready on them. Now, even if we're not ready, it's actually not the point. The point is that if you say this to yourself enough, I promise you, one day you will wake up and everything they are trying to do will become hilarious. I'm telling you, when I see this misinformation, disinformation stuff, honestly, because of this message, because I've practiced this on myself for 5 months now, when I see these types of bills going through, or the drag queen stuff, or the referendum that we're going through now is really crazy, I honestly imagine the members of parliament. You know how most parliaments, they're circular and it goes down and then you have the middle. I imagine it is a circus. It's a circus, okay? And the members of parliament have clown makeup on, like really crazy makeup. And they're just running around like, look what I just did. I just said that. I just did that. Like, it's actually a joke. These people are actually quite silly, and they will follow whatever they think is popular. Right now, they think that the left woke agenda is the popular thing. But once we become more popular, which we will, because we are having more fun in life, we are cooler, they will want to be like us eventually. They will. They will see us being happy and they will think, hang on, maybe if I don't have pink hair, I might be happier. Maybe. The point is, then politics will change after we change. It sounds like a fairy tale, but it is true. And I believe that if we can encourage the entire freedom movement to believe, at least in their mind, that they are prepared for whatever comes, I think somehow in the universe, I mean, I'm a Catholic, so I'm not being like that, but it's like somehow that message will actually get to the globalists and they will start to get a little bit anxious and they will think, oh, wait, if they're ready, then we need to hurry up. We need to do something. We need to press the button earlier. And the quicker they do what they want to do, the better it is for us, right? So there's a war tactic called the acceleration process. So if we are like, come on, let's go, we're ready, bring it on. Like, theoretically, they might actually fall for it. Like, you know, in the broader scheme, make more mistakes, and then we take advantage of the mistakes. So the point is even if you don't feel ready, just tell yourself that you are, and one day you're going to wake up and you're not going to be afraid, because fear is honestly, I promise I'm really nearly finished, but I just want to say this, that there's a fear campaign towards two camps of people, us and what we call the normies, but people not like us. Now, the fear campaign for them is like climate change, the fires, floods, yes, the inclusivity, like stuff, war, sickness, pandemic. But the fear campaign for us is digital currencies, 15-minute cities, you know, the stuff in the sky or whatever. And so we're actually falling for the fear as well. And when we're in fear, obviously we are more controllable. We know that. So if you've already chosen like this path, okay, does anyone here know Catherine Austin Fitz? She's an investment banker. I stayed with her for 3 days. She was really inspiring. She told me this. She said there's two roads, right? There's the slave road that we don't want to be on, and we've already decided by the way. We're not going down that road. We've decided we're going to be on this road. So if we're already going this way anyway, we may as well be excited about whatever's going to happen, you know, because it's a mind thing, and that's one thing we can control. That is one thing they can never, ever, ever, ever take away from us, is our hope. And even if things get really, really, really bad, we're still going to have each other, and we're going to have our integrity, and we've chosen that path. So I actually, honestly, am really excited for the next crisis. I know that sounds crazy. I know, but, and I'm finishing, but you know how every country I've been to, every country, it's all over the world, the freedom movement is having a lot of problems. Yes? But guess what? That's humans. Okay? It's nothing new. Okay? And the reason it's happening, don't get too sad about it, because humans are humans. They're idiots a lot of the time. Okay? And including us. And we have egos, and we're competitive. And because there isn't that common crisis, people like me, for example, we're trying to stay relevant, aren't we? We're trying to think of new ideas. And some people, instead of thinking of new ideas, they've decided to start pointing the fingers at other people to get the views and the things like this. Let me tell you, when the next crisis happens, all of that will stop. All of it will stop. And we will come together, and it will actually be historical. It will be beautiful. And if there was moments of beauty during COVID, which there was for me, because in Melbourne, because we were pushed so far, we have created one of the best, I would say, the best freedom movement per capita, because we have a small population, in the world. Why? Because we were pushed the furthest, right? So you guys, maybe you weren't pushed as far, and that's why you think you don't have a big movement. But the more you get pushed, the more you're going to wake up. So when the next crisis happens, be like, all right, let's go. We're ready. You can triple your group, right? All of your events. This event would have 5 times the people. If we had a crisis, there would be 5 times the people here. But you guys are the ones that are keeping the fire burning for when they need you. There are 5 times the amount of people here that would have come, but they're busy living their lives, and good on them, right? But they've got their finger on the button. They're still watching. They're still reading everything, and they're waiting for the time to rally the troops. So the point is, be excited instead of scared. And so I'm going to give you guys all one of these, and I've just got a few things that I want to give you. I did just find out that you have a party called Freedom. Is that true?
Yes.
You have a political party called Freedom, and they're not all about freedom, are they? So look, no. So these are meant for your car, but if you're not going to use it, don't take it, okay? Because I will give it to someone else. Because if it makes people think that you're like supporting that party, then that would be bad. But it won't. Oh, well. Anyway, put these on your car then, okay? If you want to. You've got the bands, and have you guys heard about the keep? What do you call it, Maya? The Keep Cash Alive.
Yeah.
What's your campaign called? Cash card. Okay. So these are really you can print it at home. There's 8 to a sheet, and you just cut it out and you put it in your wallet with your cash. And every time you pay cash, not only are you using cash, but you're also raising awareness. You give it to the cashier. So what I do is, to be honest, I've gotten out of the habit. Isn't that terrible? That's because I've only got English ones. But anyway, when you pay with cash, you then give them one of these and you just say, this is for you to read in your own time. And you just walk away. I've never, ever had a bad experience. In fact, I've gotten discounts. I've gotten free stuff. And I've had a little old Asian lady come and hug me and say thank you, because we pay so much in fees every month. And I don't know what the points mean, but they're probably similar to the ones that I had. They're very basic points. They aren't like, the government's tracking you and they're going to kill you and they're going to put you on a social credits. It's not like, sorry, you probably didn't understand that. That was too fast. The point is, the points are very normal, like save money on transactions, support local communities, you know. So it's this cash conversation, I was saying, is the easiest conversation to have with people, to open up that conversation and potentially talk about other things, because the cash topic has not become a conspiracy yet. I don't know how long we have. Okay, so if you're trying to breach the freedom conversation with someone, cash is your entry in. In my opinion, it's the easiest entry. And this does bring me to just one more point. Is the self-censoring is a huge issue. This is definitely my last point. I just thought about it. I've only thought about it recently. I've met, like outside of the freedom movement, I've of course met a lot of people on my travels, on trains, on planes, on buses, in all different scenarios of life, on the streets, in the restaurant, you know, the point is. And 98% of them agree with everything that I say. And the only reason I always have this conversation is because people ask, you're traveling alone? How do you do that? What do you do for work? And so it always comes up. I say, I've just written a book. And then they say, what is the book about? I can't escape the topic, even if I want to, unless I lie, right? So the topic always comes up. So for me, I always end up talking about COVID or about something with anyone I meet within about 2 minutes. 95% of people agree with me. That cannot be a coincidence. If you're a data person, if I've met 50 people and 48 of them are like me from all different scenarios, from a data perspective, that's actually rich data set right there, because it's such a varied situation, countries, etc. My point is, so many of us are so afraid, maybe not you guys, but afraid to talk to the people next to us, that we don't know they're awake too, because we don't talk about it, because we self-censor ourselves. So I actually think we're a lot. Now, maybe not all the way into the anti-vax thing, but at least being curious about the government movements and not trusting the mainstream media, wanting to keep cash alive. These topics, I honestly think we are absolutely the majority. Maybe if you start talking about chemtrails or, you know, one world government, you might lose a few people. But those topics, the point is, we're a lot. And one more thing is, have you guys heard of Children's Health Defense? Do you know Robert Kennedy Jr.? So you probably don't know this, but Children's Health Defense has a Europe chapter that covers all of Europe. And they have translators that translate every single article into like 60 different languages. But most people only think Children's Health Defense is in America. They don't realize that there's a Europe version. So I've got these little flyers you can connect to CHD Europe. And have you guys ever seen these little bags? No. Wow, cool. This is called a Faraday bag, and the second you put your phone in it, it blocks all the signal. And so it's a good habit to get into. If you don't need the phone for emergencies at night, put your phone in there at night time. If you don't need it for maps, put your... I have different colours. We have different... No, but anyway, I came up with kind of like a funny way to... For me, everything is about making conversation. It's not just about the one action. So I thought if you're at a cafe and you've got 3 friends, you should put your phones in these bags so that you're focused on each other. But also, if you put it this way down on the table, it's... and I have 3 more. So it's, ha ha, you can't hear me now. Ha ha, where did I go? Now you see me, now you don't. And the point is people will be like, what do you mean? And then you can talk about, well, you know, your phone is tracking you and blah, 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 blah. So anyway, just an idea. I do sell these, but we only ship from Australia, so it's kind of expensive. If you really want one, you could give me cash and I could order it for you a little bit cheaper, and I could write it in your language too. So the girl who does this is like, it's a mum and daughter team from Australia. They pack them all separately. She does them all separately. So if you want something, I can do it for you. So yeah, come and grab your stuff. And I'm sorry, I think I talked for much longer than 20 minutes. But, so we're ready, right? We are ready.
So, Monica, just one question. In terms of awareness after these lockdowns in Australia or generally, now once you met all these people from different countries, so what do you think? They are in similar situation as us, where we have a so-called freedom and people generally believe that everything is over, or how is it generally?
Well, the freedom movement knows it's not over, obviously.
I'm talking about generally, people generally.
People, oh yeah, I mean, everyone thinks that, well, the general, I don't know general, but yeah, people who looked at us during COVID, I mean, now they think we're crazy that we're still talking about it. Of course, yeah.
So it's kind of similar. In
oh yeah, it's similar, but in Victoria, like I said, the freedom movement is bigger. So it feels like it's a lot easier to have these conversations in Victoria because there was so much pain and ridiculousness. But even people in the freedom movement are going back to real life, you know.
But it kind of stand by, or
I think so. So you think that everyone's thinking that it's over, but they know. It's just they're waiting for the time that they're called, you know, because humans, we're just like that. We always elevate ourselves when we're pushed into a corner, like a diamond, you know, a diamond, right? Orange juice needs to be squeezed. Like, we're the same. We just never prepare very well. So yes, it's what I can tell you is we're all the same. Like, just freedom movement, non-free. Humans are just all the same. We're uniquely different and uniquely the same all around the world is what I've noticed. And it's a beautiful thing. But, yeah, I would say it's the same.
So what are you expecting next in Australia? Dan Andrews has resigned. What happened?
I have no idea.
You don't know?
No.
Yeah, he's gone, but I don't know how or why.
No, nor do I. But I'm happy he's gone.
Who's going to take his place?
Another idiot. Yeah.
So you expect it all to continue as it was. There's not going to be any softening or any.
No. I think it's continuously getting worse, isn't it?
Is it?
Yeah. I mean, like, if you haven't noticed, conservatives, whether you consider yourself a conservative or not, family values, you know, we are losing on the face of it. But that's okay, because we were having a really good life for like the last 20 years. And my dad and my mum had a really, really good life, and good on them. But have you ever heard of that saying, good times make weak men make bad times make strong men make good times, and it just goes like this. Right now, no offense to the men, we're in the bad men makes bad times, or weak men makes bad times. We're in that phase right now. But bad times make strong men. And when I say men, I mean people. But like, the point is they keep bringing in legislations. They keep doing the whole education on children. I mean, we're not winning those battles as a whole. We might be winning a few little battles, which is my point. And I'm glad you asked, because I did forget to say this, is, has anyone heard the saying, don't interfere with your enemy when they are in the process of destroying themselves? Do you understand? So basically, in my opinion, just my opinion, that if we step back just a little bit and actually give them some space to continue the craziness, it's going to get so crazy that there's going to be no choice but for people to wake up, especially with this man, woman, the child education, the pedophilia, like this stuff. If we just, unfortunately, people are going to get hurt. But if a mum is going to bring the 2-year-old to see a drag queen read books to them, maybe we can't save that child, you know. It's possible that it's not our job to save everyone. So we kind of need to let it unfold so that they trip over themselves. So, in my opinion, it's not going to slow down. It might have an illusion of slowing down because that's part of the strategy. You go like this, but they're already talking about new pandemics, and I just can we just get on with it? Like, let's go, So I think it's going to get worse, but we're going to become stronger from it. It's going to be great.
So there's no growing opposition in Australia, for example. I've been watching it. And I've seen 3 senators raise issues.
That's it, though.
Yes.
But they can't do anything.
No.
All they can do is, it must be so frustrating for them to speak and not make any change. Unfortunately, the enemy has captured the media. You know that. You guys know that. They have they have the money, they have the media, they have the popular opinion. They have it all tied up because they've been working on it for a long time. So it's hard for us to get through. But with pain and suffering, we're going to get through. That's it. It sucks. It sucks,
Yes,
but it's the quickest way. It's the quickest way and the cheapest way. I'm telling you. All these campaigns, I have tried it all. We did a campaign at the very beginning, and members of Parliament in Victoria had never seen so many emails in their inbox ever in history. They were getting 20,000 emails each, Did nothing. Did nothing. Like, that should have scared them.
Nothing.
That should have sent them like crazy, not being able to sleep, but no. And this was when, at the beginning, I thought that they cared about us. But they don't. And when you realize what your enemy is like, it takes a big weight off your shoulders, because when you expect humans to be compassionate and kind like you are, then you get disappointed all the time. But once you realize, well, they actually are mean people, then when they do mean things, you're like, oh yeah, well, that's fair. So stop expecting, not you particularly, but I've stopped expecting these people to do nice things. When they do, I'm like, gosh, what's going on? And it has happened a few times, and I'm like, is this real? So I don't know if I've answered your question, but yeah.
So not very promising.
No. It is promising, because it has to get worse before it gets better.
Good.
So it is very promising.
Yes.
And it is getting worse. So happy days. Happy days. I am very hopeful, and it's it might be my worst trait or my best trait. I don't know. But that's just how I am.
Thank you for inspiring speech, very inspiring. My question would be, you mentioned you are going to Zadar in Croatia soon, and I'm curious, will you visit some other European or ex-Yugoslavian states? And also, additionally, I would like to ask you, what do you see are potentials of these your tours? Because for me, someone who was as a young lived in Yugoslavia, and I had very beautiful memories of that time. It wasn't any authoritarian communist system, as propaganda says. It was something that was very promising way how to live in all Yugoslavia, is my opinion. We knew, for each other from Ljubljana to Macedonia or Belgrade every day. We were connected. Today, like New York is closer to us than Zagreb, the capital of Croatia. So I think such tours as you are doing might be very important for, what potentials do you see in that for the future and also for the activism?
Yeah. Well, that's why I need to finish my articles, because each country I go to, like I'll do for here, is I'll put the link of the group or a website or the campaigns you have in the area, and I'll get help from Myra, of course. And then anyone who's maybe coming to Slovenia to live or to holiday, they can look at my Substack. Hopefully it gets around enough that I've done that work. People can go there and they can connect with the freedom movement straight away. Secondly, Maya's actually already asked me ahead of time to connect her with the people I'm meeting in Zadar and Zagreb and Serbia. So at least she will be connected with them through my tour. And so yeah, I hope that people can connect that way. And I've got to be honest though, I have tried to connect people online before when I had Reignite Freedom. You guys might know the global walkout. That's where the cash thing started, which I've closed now because I took applications for group organizers to join and start connecting. And it was just too much work. And also a lot of people, they pretend to want to lead something or do something, but they don't actually do anything. So you waste a lot of time trying to mentor people who actually are never going to do anything, but they want to be a part of something so they feel good, but they don't do anything. So I think meeting like this is really important because you get to meet people. And so when I connect you guys to these other groups, that connection is going to be a lot stronger because of the in-person as opposed to being online. How many people have been on Zoom calls that they just hate? I mean, Zoom calls have just become my biggest nightmare. I hate them. I hate them. I honestly do. I hate them. Except I've seen some really funny videos of Zoom's gone wrong. But anyway, my point is I will connect you through Maya, and I will finish my Substacks, and they'll be there forever. So, and they're timeless because those groups are going to continue. So I have done the one for France, and it was really successful. It got like 15,000 reads on my first Substack. I was like, woo! And then I haven't done one since.
How many copies of your book have you sold so far?
1,400.
Wow, great.
Yeah. And no one's read it yet. As in, like, it hasn't hit anyone's house yet. We actually just sent the first 120 out today, actually. So, yeah.
So can we buy it tonight?
Yes, you can with, if you give me, wait, the postage is a lot from Australia, I told you.
I don't have here books. No.
I know, but I don't have them here. No. But if you give me 30 euros, cash, then I will order them and we will send it. We'll send it. And then that way it's at least cash. I'll take down your details. Hopefully we can get, if it goes well, because I don't even know if it's good yet, okay? Only my mum and my editor has read it, so it might be really bad, okay? So if it's good, then we will try to find a way to get a seller in Europe to post it so it's cheaper, or I'm obviously going to do an ebook or an audio book as well. But if it's really good and it gets lots of exposure, I'll come back. I'll come back with my books as well. So we'll see.
Just another question. Audiobook you mentioned. How it will be done? Will you read it?
Yeah, of course. Who else would? Even though I don't even like, oh, no way. I don't even like reading, to be honest. I don't read books, but I wrote one. So that's got to count for something. But also, if I read it myself, I can put emotion into it, which I've heard audiobooks before, and they just read it. It's really boring. I'm going to be putting emotion, trust me. I'll be laughing, maybe crying. There's a lot of crying moments, but
I am retired teacher in high school, and also thank you for your speech. And I'd like to know for your attitude to Julian Assange, Australian citizen.
Yeah. What was the question though?
What is your attitude to case of Julian Assange?
What's my opinion? Yeah.
Yes.
It's really interesting you asked that question. I'm a fan of his. He shouldn't be in that situation. But it taught me a big lesson when I went to prison, because my family was telling me, oh, your story's all over the news in other countries. People have drawn cartoons and made paintings, and people are at a protest holding a sign in Holland saying "Free Monica," and it makes me feel very warm and weird, and then I realized I'm in prison. Julian Assange has so much support, but he's in prison and he can't do anything. People are still protesting for him all the time. And it kind of made me realize that if you Julian, I don't know how to say this, but they're really powerful, you know, what they've done with him. He's clearly, well, I don't know the whole story, well, I do, but he shouldn't be there, but he's still there. And people are protesting for him every day, and he's still there. And it kind of gives me perspective from what I went through, that you can yell as much as you want, but if you get too much in their way, you know, but maybe, what if his role in life was that? You know, maybe his role is never to get out of prison. Maybe he's willing to do that because it has probably woken up a lot of people, what happened to him, you know. It sucks, but there's got to be a few people that are willing to do it, you know, and me not having children, I'm the right person for it. Him being a man, potentially the right person for it too, but I wish he could get out. That's a long-winded answer, but
Thank you.
it sucks, yeah. There doesn't need to be more questions. We can mingle. Shall we mingle? Yeah. All right. We are ready to mingle. How do you say goodbye? What? You can cut out all the other attempts. Now, also, before everyone scatters, anyone who wants to be in a photo, can we have a photo? If you don't want to be online, do not be in the photo because it will go on the Substack for your country. Yeah? Should we do it over there? Yeah? So while I've got your attention, let's do it.